Google.
What was your medical and scientific
I don't have a
background?
medical and scientific background because I'm
So
a
what are your
smart person and I can
qualifications?
Google.
So you think your Google is better than a doctor or something?
Hell yeah, because you just disputed when 96% of all biologists agree that at the moment of conception, a unique, whole, living human being comes into existence.
That was
The question
legitness.
Is that human like that? You're like arguing yourself in a way it doesn't sound great for you.
Excuse me?
You just denied like science to everyone here. It is a life. It is a member of our species.
Hey everyone, I have this video from Kristen where she's approached by this laborer, and the way things develop and wrap up is shocking. I'll be sharing my perspective along the way. Let's dive into it.
What is a fertilized egg? You can Google it.
Go ahead. I can tell you it's not a human being.
What is it? Is it a koala bear?
I believe it's a zygote.
What is a zygote? A zygote of what species? Because there's lots of different zygotes. There's koala bear zygotes.
Mm-hmm.
There's elephant zygotes.
Mm-hmm.
What's a zygote?
You have Google, you told me. And what is your background in medicine and science?
Fertilized egg is an embryo. An embryo is an early stage of development of a multicellular organism. In general, in organisms that reproduce sexually, embryonic development is part of the life cycle that begins after fertilization and continues to the formation of body structures. A fertilized egg is an embryo or a zygote. No matter how you want to call it, that's a member of our human being. You're using a dehumanizing term to dehumanize human beings in the earliest stages by saying, oh, it's just a fertilized egg. A fertilized egg, when sperm meets egg, bam, a unique human life comes into existence with a brand new genetic code that's never existed before or will never exist again. And that new genetic code,
life.
what is it? Is it dead?
It's not alive. It's not a life.
Wait, how can it grow into a baby if it's not alive?
It's not a life.
It's not like, what is it? So it's living, but it's not a life.
It's a thing. It is a clump of cells.
I'm a clump of cells.
Yeah, and you have life.
I'm a thing.
Yes, and you have a brain, and you have brain waves.
So,
and you have the ability to have consciousness. You can feel pain.
An embryo has the ability to feel consciousness.
Not until the third trimester.
So now, okay, so what you're saying is your value as a person is based on your functional abilities.
Your
Which is, I think,
bodily
very scary
autonomy
slow.
isn't until you have consciousness.
Who? Says who?
Says the law.
Your bodily autonomy isn't until you have consciousness?
Yes, that is how bodily autonomy works. That is why you are able to harvest organs from people who are brain dead.
And that's not how the law works, because in PCV Planned Parenthood, the Supreme Court allows abortions to be restricted by states at about 24 weeks. But we know a child, a lot of people would argue that a child at 24 weeks isn't fully cognizant of who he or she is.
Mm-hmm.
So is KCV Planned Parenthood wrong?
People have varying opinions about it. I don't think life begins at a heartbeat. And a heartbeat, Bill, that's not even a heartbeat yet.
It's fetal cardiac pole activity is how you call it?
Yeah, because it's not a heartbeat.
Yeah, it's just part of the heart that's developed.
Yeah, so it's not a
isn't fully
heartbeat. The
developed
heart
also.
isn't beating yet.
It's just
It's not pumping blood, so it's not a heartbeat
beating,
yet.
but it's not a heartbeat.
It's just sending electrical impulses, which is not a heartbeat. And I asked earlier what your medical and scientific background was.
I can Google.
What was your medical and scientific
I don't have a
background?
medical and scientific background because I'm
So
a
what are your
smart person and I can Google.
So you think your Google is better than a doctor or something?
Hell yeah, because you just disputed when 96% of all biologists agree that at the moment of conception, a unique, whole, living human being comes into existence.
The hardening of the heart is a gradual process that occurs when a person or society rejects the truth in favor of emotions or desires. This resistance of truth or to truth leads to a distorted understanding of the world and ultimately to spiritual blindness. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, when people are unable to recognize the deeper meaning or divine purpose behind life's experiences, when emotions take precedence over logic, it becomes harder to understand the truth that is rooted in God's word. You see? In such an environment, individuals may prioritize fleeting emotions and momentary comforts, missing out on the lasting peace, lasting hope, and understanding that comes with embracing logic, logical truth actually, and divine wisdom.
They don't believe
You
it's
want to
alive.
call it a fertilized egg.
'Cause
It's
it's not
also
alive.
called, via Google, an embryo or zygote. Those are stages in every person's life. You didn't come from an embryo or fertilized egg. You once were one. And your value today as a human being that makes you irreplaceable was the very same even when you were a fertilized egg or zygote in your mother's fallopian tube. It's the same because it's a slippery slope. If at any moment you start saying, well, I don't believe you have human rights until you have consciousness. I don't believe you have human rights until you fully have the ability to reproduce. You don't have human rights until you're fully grown. That's a slippery slope because every single one of us would come up with a different definition of when human rights begin. And throughout our history, as I pointed out at the beginning of my presentation, throughout history, when you allow people to decide what characteristics deem a human being worthy of life and that life worthy of protection,
We already decided
bad
that with the
things
Terry
happen.
Schiavo case in the Supreme Court, which stated that if you don't have brain waves, then you do not have bodily autonomy legally.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people I know would deeply disagree with what the Supreme Court said, just like how I disagree with what the Supreme Court said in Dred Scott and said that human beings who are black weren't full persons.
Well,
Or
the science
the
backs
Supreme
this up.
Court said that in Plessy v. Ferguson that, yeah, you can have separate but equal, sounds good to us. Or what the Supreme Court said in Roe v. Wade, the unique whole living human being doesn't have the rights to be protected. I disagree with a lot of Supreme Court rulings. And by the way, what's the Supreme Court's background science? Because I'm pretty damn sure in Roe versus Wade, the 7 men that ruled in Roe versus Wade literally started out the decision saying, we're not scientists or philosophers here.
I wish scientists were the ones that were making these decisions.
And me too,
not
because
men.
96% of them agree
They don't.
that human life begins at the moment of conception. The question is that human life valid? You're like arguing yourself in a way it doesn't sound great for you.
Excuse me?
You just denied like science to everyone here. It is a life. It is a member of our species.
That is what
That is
your opinion says
undisputed.
that it is a life. It
What
is
you're
disputed
arguing
by
is
every
that life doesn't
scientist.
have value. Let me help you. You're arguing that life doesn't have value. That a woman's life has more value than.
In a society without religion, everything would become acceptable to those who choose to live by their own standards, without the checks and balances provided by religious teachings that emphasize love, respect, compassion, and accountability. The understanding of right and wrong would no longer be anchored in universal principles. Just think about it. Or of the belief of a higher power or a moral giver, lawgiver. Just think about it. Instead, it will be entirely subjective, with each individual deciding what actions are justified or ethical based on their own personal feelings or desires. Can you imagine that? I know to some people, they may view this as a freedom of expression, but it will lead to moral chaos. It will lead to moral chaos, as different people could easily justify harmful behavior simply because it aligns with their own self-interest or perceived worldview. Those are the dangers.
What are your pronouns?
She, her.
What age should it be allowed for someone to socially transition?
I think it's very specific and up to them and their choice. I don't think that there should be a specific set age. I think if you feel really comfortable in yourself and like what you really feel like you want to be, that's all that really matters. I don't think anyone should have to stick to a norm if they don't feel like they fit that.
So would you be okay, for example, with an 8-year-old boy running around in a dress, trying to identify as a woman, expressing these, call me Jane, for example, or Sarah, for example, an 8-year-old boy, would that be okay?
If that's what makes them truly happy, I think it's okay. Yeah.
Do you-
I think everyone should be less judgmental and just like accept people and children for who they are, because
Sure.
the world has enough hate, and it's just nice to just spread positivity and happiness, I think.
Okay, fine. I use the example of an 8-year-old. What about a 5-year-old? Because obviously kids are being exposed to these ideas about gender fluidity, etc. Or even an 11-year-old. Is it still the same answer?
I think, yeah, and also I don't really think it's my place to say what they should or should be doing with their life, and I think that's up to the family's decision, and I'm not going to judge them for what they're doing and who they want to be.
So obviously at the lighter end of the conversation, it's about use of pronouns and transitioning. What about surgery, where this leads? What about medical transitioning? Should there be an age limit on that? Or what age do you think it's acceptable?
I'm not really sure.
What's your guess? What's your honest opinion?
I don't know.
Can a 10-year-old get a tattoo?
Well, actually, that's illegal, so...
So with medical transitioning, do you think there should be, what age is appropriate? Your honest opinion?
I haven't really thought about it.
What about women's safe spaces? Because we know the feminist movement says that they don't want trans women in safe spaces. So bathrooms, public bathrooms, should trans women be allowed in those spaces?
Yeah, I think that they should be allowed to do that. If they really feel like they identify as a woman, I think they should be given the right opportunity to go through with everything that a woman should go through every day.
Last question. What about prisons? So trans woman, biological male, do they belong in a female, what you're saying, they should go into a female prison? What are your thoughts on that?
I think if they fully identify as a woman, then I think that that's okay, because if they feel very uncomfortable going into a male prison, I don't think it's right for them to have to do that.
So if I identify as a female and I'm in that position of custody, should I be allowed to go into a women's prison?
If it's like, it should be down to like specifics. If they've done it for a particular reason, if they have a past history of like sexual assault on women or
So it would be case-by-case basis. If they are a sex offender, for example, then would you say no, they go into a male prison?
It depends. I just really think you have to know a lot about the person before you do anything. I can't really just say like a broad statement about transgender people in prisons. I feel like it needs to be specified on their past history, and if they're doing it for a reason, or if they actually identify as a woman and feel like they should be in a women's prison.
So so in terms of what defines a woman then, can you define what a woman is based on what you're saying?
Women are amazing. They're powerful.
Yay, women.
They're great leaders. They're just, I feel like women just are really important in the world. They bring empathy and kindness, and they're just great. Yeah.
They really do. Can I be a woman?
If you wanted to, yes.
How do I do that?
It's up to you. I can't make you do anything that, you know.
If I feel it, does that make me a woman? If I identify as a female, you can tell I'm not a female, I hope.
I know.
You sure? You didn't sound...
I just feel like everyone should have the space to just figure out themselves, and I'm not here to judge how that happens, and yeah.
The hardening of the heart is a gradual process that occurs when a person or society rejects the truth in favor of emotions or desires. This resistance of truth or to truth leads to a distorted understanding of the world and ultimately to spiritual blindness. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, when people are unable to recognize the deeper meaning or divine purpose behind life's experiences, when emotions take precedence over logic, it becomes harder to understand the truth that is rooted in God's word. You see? In such an environment, individuals may prioritize fleeting emotions and momentary comforts, missing out on the lasting peace, lasting hope, and understanding that comes with embracing logic, logical truth actually, and divine wisdom. In conclusion, sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ is a deeply meaningful, beneficial endeavor, ladies and gentlemen. It transforms lives, promotes love, justice, and hope, and also spreads the truth of God's word. You see, by fulfilling God's command, it provides eternal significance and brings profound joy to all who embrace it. And at its core, the gospel of Jesus Christ is the greatest gift to all humanity. Creating the ripple effect of positive change that echoes God's love throughout all society. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to click on the next one, and don't forget to like, to comment, and to subscribe. I will see you again next time. Bye bye for now.